When we talk about AI, we usually picture this one giant, all powerful brain. But what if that's not the future at all? What if the future of AI is more like a bustling job market with tons of different AIs all competing for work? Let's dive into that.
For years, the whole game in AI has been to just build bigger and bigger models. The thinking was, more power equals better performance. But is that really the smartest way to do things, or even the most effective? That's the big question we're digging into here. Think about it like you're building a team for a project. You wouldn't hire the most expensive, top-level expert for every single little task, would you? Of course not. You'd want a mix of people with different skills. Well, what if we applied that same exact logic to AI and built a whole team of agents, from the small, speedy ones to the big, heavy hitters? And that leads us to what you could call the AI Goldilocks problem. See, using a massive, super expensive AI to do something simple like summarize an email, well, it's like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. It's just total overkill. The real trick is finding the AI that is just right for each job, so you get great results without wasting a ton of energy and money.
And some new research shows something pretty interesting. For simple tasks, the smaller, cheaper AIs do almost as well as the giants. I mean, look at how close their success rates are here. So it really makes you wonder, why would you pay top dollar for a massive model when a little one gets the job done just fine?
But, and this is a big but, here's the catch. The second that job gets more complex, the performance of those smaller models just falls off a cliff. For the really tough problems, the heavy lifting that needs serious planning and deep thought, you absolutely still need those big, powerful models.
And when you look at the numbers, that performance gap is just wow. On simple stuff, the little guy gets you 87% of the way to the top agent's performance. Pretty good. But on complex stuff, that number plummets to just 21%. So that's the dilemma, right? You can't just use small models, but using the big ones for everything is just incredibly wasteful. So what's the solution? Well, some researchers at Meta came up with a really brilliant idea. And they got their inspiration from something we're all familiar with, freelancer websites like Upwork or Fiverr. What did they do? They made the AIs bid against each other for the job. They call this system SAIL, which stands for Strategy Auctions for Workload Efficiency. And the big idea here is that before an AI can touch a task, it first has to submit a bid. And that bid isn't just a price, it's a whole plan explaining how it would solve the problem. This basically creates a competitive marketplace that finds the absolute best AI for that specific job. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. How does this AI job auction actually work? It's a really clever and, frankly, super efficient process. It all breaks down into 4 simple steps. First, every available AI submits its plan. Then, an automated system scores all of those different bids. Third, a winner gets picked based on the scores. And finally, and this is key, only the winning AI actually gets to execute its plan and use up resources. So how are those bids scored? It really comes down to 2 big things. On one hand, you've got cost. The system figures out how much computing power that plan is going to take. But on the other hand, you've got value. A whole jury of other AIs reads the plan and rates how likely it is to actually work. The winner is the one that strikes that perfect balance between low cost and high value. Okay, but this next part is where it gets truly mind-blowing. This isn't just a one-time auction. The AIs actually learn from every single job, just like a human freelancer would. And they do it in real time without having to be completely retrained from scratch. How? The system has this thing called an auction memory. It's basically a perfect record of every single proposal that's ever been submitted for any job. And it keeps everything, the winning plans, and just as importantly, all the losing ones too. It becomes this huge library of what works and what doesn't. So let's say a cheaper AI loses a bid to a more expensive, powerful one. It doesn't just forget about it. Before the next auction, it can literally go and study that shared memory. It can see exactly why its plan lost and why the other one won. Then it can tweak its own strategy for next time. It's this amazing loop of self-improvement that lets the smaller AIs upskill themselves and start winning more complex jobs over time. So the big question, does this whole AI job market thing actually work in practice? Well, the results are, honestly, they're pretty stunning. This isn't just a neat idea. It delivers real, measurable wins across the board.
First off, the bottom line. The sales system cut the total cost of getting everything done by a massive 35%. That's a huge gain in efficiency just by being smarter about assigning the right AI to the right job. Second, it meant they didn't have to use the most expensive, power-hungry AI nearly as often. Reliance on that top-tier model dropped by more than half. This just shows how brilliant the system is at pushing work down to the cheaper, more efficient agents whenever it can. And honestly, here's the real kicker. This system isn't just cheaper, it's actually better. It boosted the overall success rate by 3.5% compared to just using the single best AI for every single task. Think about that. You're saving a ton of money and you're getting more accurate results. So yeah, the verdict is pretty clear. By creating this competitive market, the system just finds a better balance between performance and cost than any single AI ever could on its own. It's a win, win, win. And what this all points to is a really big shift in how we might want to think about the future of AI. It's about moving away from this idea of building one single giant super brain. The researchers themselves said it best. Future breakthroughs might not come from just making models bigger and bigger. The real gains are going to come from creating these smart, market-like systems that can organize a whole team of different AIs into a super efficient and adaptive ecosystem. So that leaves us with this really cool thought to chew on. Maybe the goal isn't to build a single, all-knowing supermind. Maybe the real future of AI looks a lot more like a vibrant, bustling economy of different agents. Big, small, specialized, all competing, collaborating, and learning from each other to build something way more powerful and efficient than any single mind could ever be.